She is amazing. She's incredible. Her name is Yumi Rodriguez. She's here in the studio. And Yumi, come on up. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So good to have you here. Yes, to have you live in person. So, the Emma Bowen Foundation, you have certainly benefited from a lot of the programs that we've talked about. I want to talk about your fascinating story because you actually got involved with the Bowen Center a while ago. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with the Bowen Center.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you so much, everyone, for having me. It's truly an honor to be here. Um, I got involved, you can kind of see some images of some work that I've participated in, if not done myself. Some mural work. Well, that'll come a little later. I was born and raised in Washington Heights and Hamilton Heights neighborhood, and I would walk around the Emma Bowen Center quite often without knowing what it was. And it wasn't until I experienced difficulties and kind of like just anxieties of my own that I was directed there. My grandfather who raised me fell really ill, and I was seeking career change. I originally came into animal medicine. So I was in love with the arts, but because of social stigma, I didn't pursue it. So I, like my grandfather, who was the breadwinner of our household, was ill, and I was considering being an artist, and I was like, what am I gonna do? So I was redirected here, and now my work kind of stems across the veterinary medicine, public art, whether in the form of like mural making or social circus projects, which you guys will hear about. Also like zoology, I already mentioned. I also work with insects, which is a big thing.
You do it all.
Yeah, I definitely do it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if not with the support from my therapist, Paige, I probably would not be here.
Wow, you talked about the support of your therapist, Paige, and therapy is a big focal point of the Bowen Center. As we look around at all these images, it's just really incredible and show how you've grown into living your best life, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
amazing testament to the Bowen Center and all of the work. And our pre-interview notes that I got from our fantastic producer, Chris Johnson, who's here, he had pointed out that you've had mental health struggles really since you were about 17. Got a big birthday coming up next month. I'm sure that it's a time of reflection for you. What would you say to that 17-year-old version of yourself?
If I'm going to be quite honest, that 17-year-old version of myself was struggling with suicidal ideation. So I was struggling to get up in the morning to do basic tasks like brushing my teeth, brushing my hair. And, I would tell that version of myself that to be kind to yourself, because it's so hard to be struggling and then be your own worst enemy. And also to kind of trust in the process, because I felt like I wanted to do so many things. Art, animal medicine, climate justice, social justice. I wanted to help my neighborhood. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I would just tell myself to like trust the process, it'll all fall together in place.
Wow, that's such powerful advice that it will all come together, all fall in place, especially when we have a powerful support network like the Bowen Center. Speaking of that powerful support network, talk to me a little bit about how when you came to the Bowen Center, you had mentioned, it is kind of a discreet building. I've actually passed by it a lot of times. The lettering, the signage is not super big, but what was that warm embrace like from the Bowen Center when you first walked in?
So the Bowen Center, the people there are certainly amazing. And it's kind of like that cliche goes, don't judge a book by its cover, because it was, when I initially went there, it like just the facade, the outward facing appearance was not as welcoming as I thought. I kind of passed by this building for so long, not knowing what it was. The reason I kind of have been involved in like beyond this patient capacity now is because I wanted to give back to this community. I probably would not be here without it. So I work for this public art initiative called the Audubon Mural Project, which paints murals of endangered bird species all over the Uptown neighborhood. And also, so we do this for free, and we're just trying to beautify disadvantaged neighborhoods and bring public art and access to them. So I went and I proposed a mural there as a thank you. And I'm hoping to kind of help this place become more welcoming than it is on the surface, right? Because it is on the inside.
Exactly. Well, art is certainly a way to do that and to connect with folks. That is so amazing. I think as we continue seeing these images.
Yeah, these are definitely, that's one of my paintings, watercolor
Wow.
paintings.
What do you call this one?
So that's Quetzalcoatl. It's
Okay.
a Mesoamerican deity that stands for rebirth. And for a long time, like I see like animals, I guess, like I speak to my therapist about this all the time. And I kept seeing a snake for so long. And, snakes are usually taboo.
Right.
And I would tell my
I want
family,
to see snakes.
yeah, they're scary, they're otherworldly, they're cold-blooded, they're different from us. And so I would tell my mother, like, I keep seeing the snake, and she was like, do not draw that. Don't draw a snake. And when I painted the snake, everyone was like, it's so beautiful. So
More snakes.
yeah, it goes to show.
You talked about when you were talking to your therapist. I was telling my cousin Pam, who's Pam Holloway. She actually works in the mental health field, and you got to meet her earlier. I was telling her, I feel like I could use a therapist on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. Therapy is so important. Tell me a little bit about the regularity with which you seek therapy.
Sure. So everyone is different, and they have their own individual needs. For me, I see my therapist once a week, and I think that works for me because it gives me an opportunity to apply all the tools that she's taught me without that kind of like period where I'm kind of by myself, and I wouldn't be able to really kind of know how to like apply them to real world situations.
Right.
So she kind of gives me the self-reflective tools, and then eventually I'm kind of able to practice that self-reflection on my own.
Wow. That self-reflection is something that you've benefited from so much. I know one thing that you shared in the pre-interview notes is that there's this concept in therapy called mirroring. So the therapist really mirrors back to you what you're sharing. How has that helped you in terms of, maybe some things, the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves, the positive self-talk, hearing that reflected back to you from the therapist at the Bowen Center and stuff? How has that helped you?
Yeah, for sure. It's really transformed my life. Just kind of being able, because our minds are constantly thinking so many things, right? We have like anxieties, dreams, hopes, rage even, and kind of like having that bounce back at you, but like in a non-judgmental way where you can kind of like, it allows you to really see what you're doing. It's like a blind spot, right? We all have
Right.
this blind spot. And you're like, once you're able to really see it and get out of your head when you're doing it, you're able to kind of transform it. And I feel like that's not often talked about as
Right.
enough, kind of like that space where it's like that transformative space. And like, I say this is so important because it's like, could you imagine, given the state that our world is in today, if like these like great leaders in our world, like if instead of acting in like a fit of rage and being like, I'm gonna blow up an entire country, there would be able to pause and reflect and
Yes.
say, you know what, maybe I should talk to someone.
Yeah.
The world would be a different place. How many world wars would be avoided if that were the case?
Wow.
Yeah.
The world needs more Yumis. That is so powerful. I think yeah, truly remarkable. You talked about getting out of your head, and I know that that's something that we get in our head. We have these anxious thoughts, and there's so many different ways that people kind of, try to get out of that space, whether that be medication or therapy. You actually take a holistic approach as well. I know you run your own yoga group. The first time I tried yoga, I was like, I didn't know it was so involved, so hard to quiet your thoughts. How do you do it? How does it help?
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't say I run my own yoga group. I'm a yoga teacher and I came to yoga for mental health, right? Um, and so it kind of like evolved. It first started with me teaching like free classes in the neighborhood. I would just go to public parks and I would like offer free classes for mental health. And then it kind of evolved into like circus performance art, which is something I never would have imagined, like just
Yeah.
this quirky thing. But so the beauty of this is it kind of propels you into the present, right? You're talking about how yoga can be like really hard, but you're
Right.
really in your body, right? So you're out of your head. And that like presence, it's where you're able to connect with people around you and yourself and your community.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of like the magic of it all. Like, just being present with people around you and yourself. And, you're able to enjoy your life. You're not in the future, projecting into the future in the past. You're here.
Right. Because a lot of times we hear that when you think in the past, it causes depression. When you think in the future, like, got to do this by this time, got to have that happen. And then that causes anxiety. For a lot of our people here in the studio audience and those tuning in virtually, they may be wondering, hey, I want to get therapy, I want to seek out treatment, but are feeling afraid or it's hard to take that first step. What would you share to someone who's having those kinds of thoughts?
I feel like this is like easier said than done, of course, but be brave, just kind of, I know there's like social and cultural taboos, with mental health and stigma. Some people call you crazy, but just be brave and do it anyway. There's always help out there, but you have to take the first step. And that means asking, or, it's not going to happen by you being isolated in a room. You really have to get
Right.
out there. So just be brave and go for it. And it's like, I'm also not saying that in no way is it going to like cure everything, right? It's a process and it's not linear. It goes up and down. But that journey is well worth it.
That is so true. Got to say that taking that first step is the first part of any journey. Now I know we got to move on to the next segment, but I'm just curious. Rapid fire question. No, to put you on the spot. But if you had to describe the Bowen Center in one word, what would it be?
A blessing.
Blessing. Wow.